Well, we want to tell you a story now about Molly. Molly has had her share of challenges in her life. First, losing her vision, then being bullied at school. So I sat down with Molly to find out how she coped.
I think 13, 14, that age group is all about self-discovery and figuring out who you are. It just became very difficult for my friends to be friends with somebody who was so different from the person that they'd become friends with initially. And they just slowly started kind of dropping away, and then it got worse because rumors started spreading that I was faking it, that I wasn't really blind, and I was on crutches, and I was forced to leave my guide dog Gypsy at home. And so the school decided they would have other classmates help me get around. And on the way to lunch, they said they weren't hungry, so we weren't gonna go to lunch. And they started leading me outside and down a hill across a field, and we basically ended up in a forest. And I was tired, so I sat down and put my crutches beside me, and one of them came and took them. And they ended up smashing them and breaking them against a tree and running back to class without me.
What did you do?
I panicked, and they had my backpack. And that's what made me really panic, because I thought my phone was in my backpack. But I put my hand in my pocket, and I actually, luckily, put it in my pocket that day. So I grabbed it, and I dialed my mom's number, and she rushed off from work and came and found me, and she carried me into the car. And that night, my family decided that I would finish my grade 8 year from home. What I say to kids who are being bullied is you're not alone, and it truly gets better. It really does. Because I was in the darkest place where I figured that I might as well just end my life. It wasn't worth it. And now I am the happiest that I've ever felt. And to people who are maybe bullying somebody, it's not too late to change. And it's not too late to be forgiven.
Molly's amazing, and you know, she's really found her place now as a speaker. You can hear how eloquent she is, but you know, everyone is not as lucky as Molly. An amazing support system, and she was able to work her way through it. So we thought we need to talk about bullying here today on Cityline. So please welcome Dr. Karyn Gordon to get into this subject. It's a tough one, especially now, so much happening in the news right now. And you know, the statistics are kind of staggering when you look at them. The amount of people that have witnessed cyberbullying, 25%. 25%,
64% of our children will be bullied some point in their school career. 64%.
That's high.
High. So 85% of our children will see it at some point. And so we need to do a whole show at some point around the power of bystanders kind of in this. But it is very, very popular. And I mean, I think her story is just so powerful. I mean, so powerful on so many levels. But you know, the first thing I really want to say is, to me, her story is really the definition of bullying. Because I find, I was speaking in Northern Ontario, I do a lot of speaking in schools, and I find that the word bullying is getting used so much, it's almost losing its power. That everybody's calling everything bullying. It's like, you know, you're called fat or ugly. Oh, he's a bully. And I feel like we have to really differentiate what exactly is bullying versus with what's teasing. Molly's story is bullying. And the thing around bullying is that with bullying, you've got a power imbalance. You've got at least, and if it's one person, they've kind of pulled in other people, exactly with what actually happened with her, but the intent is to harm. Okay, so it's really, the intent is not, it's malicious, it's to put down, it's actually to harm somebody else. And so that's going to be different than teasing. So a lot of times you'll have kids on the same grade, and they're name calling. Name calling is not necessarily bullying.
Okay, although someone would say name calling is to cause harm, sort of emotional harm.
It is, but also you want to look with bullying, you would actually look at it in terms of the frequency with actually how often that's actually happening. Because the reason that I actually want to differentiate this is because with bullying, I don't want kids to try to stand up for themselves. When you have a bullying case, you actually want to involve an adult. When you've got a teasing situation, you want to encourage kids to actually be their own advocate to stand up to it. So it's really important that we actually separate what's bullying and with what's teasing.
And then there's cyberbullying. Which is sort of this whole new phenomenon, which is what?
Cyberbullying is basically, it's bullying, but it's actually now happening online. And the danger, the power with cyberbullying is that all of a sudden there's so many people that can now get involved. With the classes, you know, kind of the old school bullying, it was almost like between a few people. With cyberbullying, now you're actually pulling in all these other people. So
a parent sitting at home thinking to themselves, okay, 64% of children will be bullied. How do you know if your child is perhaps a target? Because they might not be coming home and telling you anything.
And most kids don't. Okay, so as a parent, the signs that you really want to look for is you want to look for anything that's a change. Okay, so you want to really, this is where as parents we have to really pay attention to with what's actually going on. So you want to look, is there a change? If all of a sudden, do they seem really sad? Do they seem depressed? Are they withdrawing? Are they not going out with their friends anymore? Are their school dropping? Their motivation? Some kids actually even, they regress in terms of they go bedwetting again, depending on the age. Some kids will have nightmares. So you're going to see a shift. It's not going to all of a sudden kind of come out of the sky. Like, kids will always leave clues, but as parents, we have to be really paying attention to what those clues are.
Right. Okay. So you see a difference in behavior,
Yeah.
and then it becomes, what do you do?
Right.
Because with Molly,
Right.
you know, I said to her, her mother came and picked her up that day, and she was in the forest with her crutches, you know, haven't been broken, and her mother picked her up and took her home and never brought her back. And I'm just thinking, if I was her mother, like, God help me. I'm not sure if I could have been that mature or responsible about it and just taken her away. I would have raised a little bit of hell in that school.
You know, I was thinking when I was watching Molly's story, I was thinking I would love to meet her parents, because
They're
how her
amazing.
parents responded. I don't see a victim. When I watch that video, I don't see a victim. I see a strong girl who is like, I am not going to take that.
Yeah.
And the thing with parents is that if we pity our children, and we're like, oh my goodness, look at it, our kids pity themselves. And so it's really important that we give the kids our tools with actually how to handle it. But the thing as a parent, so what does a parent do? First of all, differentiate between teasing and bullying. With bullying, I want parents to get involved. With teasing, I don't want parents to get involved.
They've got to handle it themselves.
We have to give the tools to our children so that they can be their own advocate.
Okay.
So I don't want parents to be calling up the school every time their kid gets called a name on the playground, right? So, but if it is a case with bullying, then what I want parents to do is I would actually start documenting it. Really start keeping a log with what are your kids saying, what's actually happening. If there's any marks, bruises, whatever, I would actually take a picture of it. Document if there's emails, texts, whatever. Keep all of your facts. Get all of that, and then I would actually go to the school.
Okay, so do you ever just go straight to the parent of the child?
I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't. If this is happening, especially if it's happening on school property, schools I find schools, because I do work with boards all across the country, I find schools are handling this very, very well. You could possibly go to the teacher depending on the severity of it. If the teacher is not handling it properly, then I would actually go right to the principal. Bring all of your information actually with you. You'll come across much more together in terms of here's the evidence that I'm concerned about. And I would actually be asking the school what's your protocol here? What are you actually going to do? How do I know? I need to know my child is safe. We're dealing with a safety issue.
Right.
And so I would actually be very candid to know exactly what's actually happening. And it's really important that kids see their parents are taking this seriously.
Right. And their parents are really becoming an advocate there and separating the emotional from here's the evidence and we are taking it in and we're going to handle this and I support you and I've got your back. And if the school doesn't do anything, I guess you've got to go to the next measure.
Then you go up. You just go up the board. You just go up the board. And the thing with what she said, and I loved with what Molly was saying, is that the other part in terms. So that's what the parents can do in terms of kind of making sure that the bullying thing is actually not happening anymore. In terms of the emotional part, absolutely tell your child this is not your fault. And I think she really got that message from her mom, which is very powerful, so that the child is not internalizing like there must be something wrong with me. This has nothing to do with, when bullies are doing this, they're feeling so inferior about themselves that they're actually trying to put other people down to kind of like feel better about themselves. This has nothing to do with the child, so you want to make sure that it's not their fault. And also, sometimes it's really good to get a counselor for that child just to make sure they're not internalizing with what's actually happened.
Good tips, Karyn. Thank you. Let's go to break. More coming up.